everyone, it's Matt, and today I will be talking to you about my ticket stub collection. I have been collecting ticket stubs since around 2006, I believe. Basically, whenever I go to a movie or a concert or something like that, I will keep the ticket stub if I can and throw it in this shoebox, which I am tapping right now. This is the same shoebox I started with, I believe. So, this is for a very old pair of shoes. But today I thought it would be fun to kind of go through these randomly and talk to you about some of the things I have ticket stubs for. I do not have time to talk about every stub, seeing as there are hundreds of them in here, but I thought it would be fun to talk about at least some of them. So, I'm going to tap on this a little. A little bit of scratching. And I will say that this was originally going to be an actual video where I showed the stubs and everything. But I quickly realized that most of the stubs show the location and things like that on them. So, be a little too personal to show that. So, sorry guys, it's audio only. Okay, so let's open up the shoebox. And I will actually rustle these up a little. Kind of shuffle through. They're already all pretty mixed up anyway, but I do have a list of exactly what's in here, so I'm not too disorganized, I guess. I'll just shuffle these up a bit and start choosing them at random. First one is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. You know, forget that. Let's start with another one. Let's see. What do we have here? This is actually one of my oldest ticket stubs. It's from 2006, November 25th to be exact. And I honestly don't remember too much about this movie, except I do remember, I think, that the soundtrack was done by Spoon, which is a really great band. So that was a good thing about it. And if I remember correctly, it was a pretty good movie in general, but beyond that, not too much. There's the sound of the stub itself. It's kind of touching by your ears. Okay, what do we have next? This one is Captain America, the Winter Soldier. This was actually one of my favorite Marvel movies. It felt a lot different than the others. In some ways, it was actually less comic booky, I guess. It felt more like a proper action movie to me. The choreography of the fights and things like that were much more impressive than the average Marvel movie, in my opinion. I think I'd probably rank it up there in my top 3 favorite Marvel movies, alongside Iron Man and Guardians of the Galaxy. This one's more of a glossy paper stub, different material than the last one. But yes, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, highly recommended. I do apologize if you hear kind of a whirring sound in the background. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but it sounds particularly loud today. I've been trying to film this video all weekend, but haven't been able to avoid background noise until now. Alright, so next up is Kingsman, the Secret Service. This was an awesome movie. It kind of came out of nowhere for me. I didn't really know much about it. I just kind of saw it. But it's one of the more fun movies I've seen in a while. It's kind of a less serious version of a James Bond film in a way. Kind of just self-aware, tongue-in-cheek spy movie. Very, very entertaining. But there's not really too much I can say without spoiling it. I'll just say that you should go see it. And those of you who have seen it will recognize the quote, "Manners maketh man." So there you go. Kingsman, the Secret Service. And what do we have here? B-movie. Frankly, I don't remember much about this one either. It is from 2007. I remember it was a CGI movie featuring talking bees. But I don't remember how much I liked it. It's just kind of whatever. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. It had bees. That's all I know. Alright. This one is The Raid 2. Now, if you're not familiar with the Raid movies, they have some of the best action choreography I've ever seen in a movie. They're foreign movies. I think they're from, I could be wrong, it's either Vietnam or Thailand, I'm not sure. But they're basically just movies full of well-done fight scenes and things like that. The story in the first one is pretty simple. Just a group of soldiers or policemen, not quite sure, trying to get to the top of a building that is taken over by a drug lord, and fighting everyone on the way up. And The Raid 2 is a much more complex story, but it has some really impressive scenes. I recommend both movies if you haven't seen them and you're into action. So, what should we choose next? This one is for a concert. The Dillinger Escape Plan. I know some of you have heard me talk about the Dillinger Escape Plan in earlier videos, but they're one of my favorite favorite bands of all time. Definitely not for everyone, as they are very, very extreme, chaotic metal. But they put on some of the most entertaining live shows I've ever seen. Also possibly some of the most dangerous live shows. Things like jumping off balconies into the audience and playing guitar upside down from the rafters and breathing fire. So if you're into crazy stuff, you may like this band. I sure do. Not for the faint of heart, though. Right. In this next movie, everything is awesome. This is for the Lego Movie, which was, to sum it up in a word, I'd say awesome. Basically, my inner child loved this movie. I wouldn't say it was one of my favorites last year, but it was a lot of fun. That's basically how you could sum it up. Awesome fun. That's about it. Nothing too deep or serious, but if you've still got the kid in you, I think the kid in you would love it if you've not seen it. Alright. This one is Brave. Brave was a pretty good movie. To be honest, not my favorite of the Pixar movies. Not even close, really, but I enjoyed it. It kind of just felt like a generic Disney movie in some ways. Didn't really have that Pixar feel to me. But I enjoyed it. Just no real desire to watch it again, I guess. The little bears were cute. This one is pretty unique. It is for Ka by Cirque du Soleil at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. This is the only Cirque du Soleil show I have seen, and I must say it was very, very impressive. Basically just incredible acrobatic stunt work, very unique music and story and things like that. Just all around inspiring and entertaining. I would say if you get a chance to see a Cirque du Soleil show, you go ahead and do it, because they're very impressive, if Ka is any indication. And I've heard that many of them are actually better than this one. Next is Ghost Rider from 2007. I believe this one was starring Nicolas Cage as Ghost Rider. And if I remember correctly, it was a fairly forgettable comic book movie. I don't regret seeing it, but as the term forgettable would indicate, I don't remember much about it. Other than Nicolas Cage with a flaming skull head or something like that. Alright, so let's shuffle through these a little more. This one is District 9. I saw this in 2009, as you would expect, and I don't remember it super vividly, but I remember it was a very, very, very good, unique sci-fi film. I think it kind of incorporated found footage in a way that didn't feel cliche to me. And it was pretty interesting, great CGI work and stuff. So if you've not seen it, I would definitely recommend it. Unfortunately, I have not heard good things about this director's more recent movies, though, like Elysium and Chappie. I haven't seen them yet, though. Alright. Okay. This ticket stub is just labeled Harry Potter and the... And it's from July 2011. Now I could be wrong, but I think this was one of the last two movies, one of the Deathly Hallows movies. I'm not a huge fan of Harry Potter, but I did read most of the books, and I thoroughly enjoy the movies as well. I think the last two are some of the best, so not too much else to say about this, but I'm glad I saw it. Alright. Next we have Grindhouse. Grindhouse is actually, or in the theaters, it was a set of two movies, Planet Terror and Death Proof, both of which I loved. I actually saw this twice in theaters, even though it's 3 hours long. Basically, Planet Terror is a ridiculous, over-the-top B-movie type thing, and Death Proof is a sort of horror revenge movie in a way. I think one was directed by Robert Rodriguez and the other by Quentin Tarantino. And you can definitely tell with their style in both of them, but it was kind of meant to feel like a time at one of the old trashy movie theaters of maybe the 70s or 80s, where they played the low budget, over-the-top, gory, violent exploitation films. And this definitely felt kind of like that. It even had fake trailers between the movies, which were very entertaining. So yes, if you can see Grindhouse as one full package with both movies, I'd highly recommend it. Alright, let's see. Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Now, I was actually a pretty big fan of most of the Pirates films, at least at the time. Though I have only seen the first three, I've not seen the most recent one. I think the second and third ones get more hate than they deserve. The first one was by far the best, of course, but I did enjoy the second and third ones. That said, this was definitely the weakest of the three, in my opinion. Still a fun time in the movies, if you ask me. I remember seeing this with a very big group of friends. We were all pretty excited for it. And perhaps more than the movie, that's what mattered at the time. Next up, Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is a very, very good movie. kind of a thriller about a guy who wants to get into the TV news business by, I guess, filming crime scenes and selling the footage to the stations. Except he is so bent on success that he will basically do anything to get good footage. Even if it means getting to crime scenes before police and sabotaging crime scenes and things like that. So it's a very morally ambiguous movie, but very well done. I believe it's going to Netflix soon, or may be on there already, so if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, go ahead and check it out. Next we have 300. This was one of the earlier ones, again, from 2007. I don't remember too much about this movie. Actually, I don't remember being a huge fan of it, but I remember loving the visual effects and the style of it. The story didn't really grip me, though. I believe it was done by Zack Snyder, if I'm not mistaken. I kind of feel that way about a lot of his work. Great looking, but when it comes to the actual story, I'm not a huge fan. Though Watchmen was one exception to that rule, as you may have guessed by my Rorschach video. Anyway. This one is Super 8. Super 8 I remember liking a lot. I didn't think it was anything mind-blowing or extra special, but it was just a fun time in the movies. I think it was done by Steven Spielberg, if I'm not wrong. It kind of just had that, good old time at the movies feel to it, in a way. Where it was exciting and fun, but not too intense. Reminded me of my childhood, in some ways, when I went to the movies in the 90s. And the early 2000s. I can't really say too much without spoiling it, but I would recommend the movie. Just not my highest recommendation, of course. Okay, so what do we have here? Transformers. This was the first Transformers movie, and the only one I've actually seen, because I was not a huge fan of it. I didn't think the first one was terrible, but I heard pretty bad things about the others, and I didn't really have a urge to see them, so not really too much that needs to be said about this one. Just kind of lots of CGI and explosions without much feeling to it. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just not really my taste. Okay. First, I gotta say, this movie is still in theaters right now, so if you're listening to this within the first month or so, this video's out. Go see Mad Max Fury Road at your first opportunity. It is favorite action movies of all time. I have not seen the other Mad Max movies, but I don't think you need to see them to understand this at all. It is one of the most outrageous, over-the-top, fun action movies I've ever seen. Just non-stop crazy stunts with cars and explosions and crashes and all this crazy stuff. And I know that sounds kind of stupid, like some of you might be thinking, oh, it sounds just like Transformers or something like that. But the difference is the story is actually good in this, and the characters are likable, and most of the action is actually real practical effects instead of CGI. So it feels much more visceral in a way. The soundtrack and editing and everything else are amazing. It's basically a 2-hour car chase, almost non-stop, throughout the desert after the end of the world. And it gets my highest recommendation for pretty much anyone. So yeah, go see it. Let's see. Now we have The Hangover 2. Now I am with the common consensus on the Hangover series. I liked the first one a lot. The second one was a letdown, and I have not seen the third one. I think the issue with The Hangover 2 is it was basically like playing Mad Libs with the plot of the first movie. Pretty much everything that happened in that movie was a repeat of the first one. Just switching out certain characters and locations and trying to make things more extreme. But it just ended up feeling unoriginal to me. I mean, I laughed at it, but it kind of felt like a waste by the end. Though I do think the series could have potential if they changed it up more. Oh well. Okay, so now we have Black Swan. I think Black Swan is an excellent psychological thriller, and I'm sure many people just disregarded this movie the second they heard it was about ballet. They thought, oh, that's for women, oh, it's a girly movie. No, not at all. It's actually one of the more creepy movies I've seen. Pretty disturbing stuff at times. It is less about ballet and more about someone losing their mind. So, if you're into creepy psychological thrillers, I would highly recommend it. Okay, now we've got No Country for Old Men. This is a really, really good movie. Basically, for those of you who don't know, or haven't seen it, it is one of the most suspenseful movies I've seen, probably. It just has an insanely good sense of tension and suspense and ramping things up. You just don't know what's going to happen, and you just sit there waiting and waiting and waiting, trying to figure it out. And then something happens. And it's just so good. I don't know. That's how I'd describe it. I don't really want to spoil too much, but I think it would be fun to do a video of the antagonist in the movie, Anton Sugar. He doesn't have too many lines, but he does have a very deep voice. And while I do need to practice it a lot more, I should try it right now. Let's see if I can do it. It's gonna suck. What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss? Call it friendo. Yeah, I mean, I actually need to watch some clips and see how I sound, but That could have been better, I'm sure. Either way, if I do decide to do a video, I will practice a lot. So if you guys want something like that, you can let me know. Next we have Edge of Tomorrow. I think it's a shame that this movie did so poorly at the box office, because it was a really great action movie. Pretty original too. I don't think it was quite as good as some people were saying it was, but I don't think it deserved to bomb as hard as it did. I would recommend seeing it if you do have a way of seeing it, though I think they may have actually renamed it because it did so poorly. They renamed it for the video release. I think they might have called it Live, Die, Repeat or something like that. Either way, great movie. Now we've got Interstellar, the IMAX version. I saw Interstellar in a proper 70mm IMAX theater. It was one of the most visually impressive movies I've ever seen in terms of just the sheer size and sharpness. Major parts of the movie were shot on film IMAX cameras, 70mm, and in a proper theater, not one of the kind of fake IMAXs that most theaters have, but one of the huge IMAX theaters. It is crazy, crazy looking. And it doesn't hurt that I love the movie as well. I'm generally a big fan of Christopher Nolan's work, as you can probably guess from my Dark Knight videos. So if you have not seen Interstellar and are open to sci-fi, I would recommend it highly. Next is Big Hero 6. I thought this was a really fun movie. Not the most original or mind-blowing, but a lot of fun. In a way, it almost felt more like a Pixar movie than some of Pixar's more recent movies. And I love the character of Baymax. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your pain? I've actually considered doing a Baymax video. I think it would be fun, but I would definitely need to practice the voice. I haven't tried it at all. But maybe one day. Anyway, let's see. Next up is Prometheus. Now, I am in the minority, I think, when I say that I loved Prometheus. I think a lot of the problems people have with it, and I mean, I understand the problems because, admittedly, the movie doesn't do the best job of conveying this point, but I think one of the major points of the movie was the fallibility of humans and their curiosity getting the best of them and how stupid they can be at times. Because a lot of people complain about the stupid decisions people made in this movie. But I think that was kind of the point. Without spoiling much, that kind of thing didn't really bother me. I thought it was very well made in most ways and intriguing and kind of interesting to see how things fell apart as people kind of lost it. I have not actually seen all of the Alien movies, though. I've only seen Alien and Prometheus. I still need to see Aliens. But if you are open to a sci-fi movie that doesn't answer all the questions it asks, I would recommend Prometheus. And you don't need to see the Alien movies to get it. So let's see. A few more. Let's do a few more. This one is another concert ticket for Periphery. And if you've been following my channel for a while, you can probably guess that Periphery is one of my favorite bands. They are a progressive metal, or some will call them chant band. They're not ridiculously heavy or anything like that, so if you're curious and you can tolerate some heavier music, but not necessarily crazy death metal type stuff, you might enjoy them. I would recommend them to most people, or at least a try. But yeah, they are a lot of fun live. They kind of goof off sometimes, and they are very, very tight with their instrumental work. Sounds pretty much as good as the album, if not better. So, yes, Periphery, highly recommended. Alright, let's do 3 more. Trying to find some decent ones. Okay, we got Life of Pi. Life of Pi, I think, was a fantastic book. I read it for school many years ago, and I think it translated surprisingly well to film. I enjoyed it a lot. I think the special effects, the CGI at least, were very cool looking. And I saw it in 3D, and while I'm normally not a fan of 3D, I think the 3D in this movie looked great. I recommend this movie to most people, and it does make you think, especially towards the end. Alright. Next up. I think Her was a very, very, very good, very unique movie. Definitely a bit strange in some ways, but for those of you who don't know, it's about a guy who, I guess you could say, falls in love with the computerized voice, or the operating system in his little headset that he wears around. It's kind of supposed to be a near future type thing, like you can imagine this happening in a few years. And without spoiling much, I would say it's both intriguing and touching, like a sci-fi film with emotions, or deeper emotions than usual, like a sci-fi romance in some ways. I'm not really a fan of most romance type stuff, but I did enjoy it a lot. I would recommend it. Okay, I think I said 3 more 2 stubs ago. So let's do one last one. Let's see. last one is How to Train Your Dragon 2. I really did like the How to Train Your Dragon movies. I actually was kind of turned off by the name and the whole DreamWorks thing at first. So I didn't watch them until maybe a year ago, or the first one at least. But it was surprisingly very good. I'm just not a huge fan of the name. In some ways, it felt more like a Pixar movie than Pixar's more recent stuff. Though I've heard Inside Out is getting great reviews so far, so I'm looking forward to that. If you have not seen How to Train Your Dragon or How to Train Your Dragon 2, I would recommend them both. Great for all ages. So yeah, there's the stub. And I think that is enough for tonight. I'm going to go ahead and put these stubs back in, because I've been leaving the ones I already did outside the box. Alright. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Maybe you're even asleep right now, because talking about ticket stubs is boring. But, either way, hope you liked it. I will most likely be back sometime in the next week with another video, hopefully within a few days. But until then, thank you for watching.